I wanted to stay under your 2 hours and all that and make sure you
Okay.
I mean.
All right. So, over the course of the last couple weeks, I've been the stay-at-home dad, and I'm just spending a lot more time being able to have like both myself and Lucy at home at the same time around Teddy. And I was like, and also, we always had these conversations about upbringing and who had it. We always comparing it like in a bad way. Who had it worse? We never, because we're so humble, we don't want to feel like we're bragging and say, "Oh, I had it better than you." So it's like the flip side is, man, I had it way worse than you. You had 3 pair of socks. I only had 2. You know what I'm saying? We always do that. So I'm like, you know what? It's like, and I said to DJ earlier, I'm like if our fathers got
y'all team deflection period. Like y'all, who's the funniest? Oh, I'm not the funny.
They are, man.
I'm not the funny. They are. Shut up. Down there too, light skinned nigga. Fuck out of here.
So I'm like, I said to DJ, I said if our fathers were to like privately listen to our conversations, they would feel like they were being villainized a lot of times.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that it's not warranted. But that's not necessarily our agenda.
Right.
Right. So I was like, I was sitting on the couch with my 2-year-old son with his mother. As my mother and my father don't have that memory. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm like, and that's why I said it sort of sparked me to want to have this conversation, because I feel like we have 4 different perspectives. As we have, I'm the oldest son, DJ's the oldest son, Will's the oldest son.
Yeah.
But I said, DJ said, Will and Brian, y'all the way y'all linked in with a lot of y'all likes is very similar to DJ and Rail with a lot of their likes, because Rail grew up watching DJ. You grew up watching Will or watching what he liked. So you sort of had similar interests, right? But one thing DJ said a couple days ago is like comparing his dad as the 30-year-old dad raising him and his brother versus watching him as a grandfather with his son. It's like 2 completely different dudes. And I said, well, DJ, you probably got 3 different versions, because as the oldest, you probably had it hard as hell. Then you got to see your dad with Rail, where it's like he didn't necessarily have the same gloves on. He had gloves, it's not the same one. And now it's like a whole different pops that he deals with now.
Right.
You all had the same thing with Will. You had your father has a Aaron, and you had a sister from him, right?
Yeah. Well, he raised the younger our sister. Yeah. They were.
Right, but he had Aaron after you though, Brian.
Yeah.
So Brian is the middle child.
Yeah. Well, he's 13 years. Like I was raised as the youngest the whole time. So.
Okay.
So I was 13 when Aaron came, and we weren't raised in the same house, so it's a little different.
So how long were, out of curiosity, how long was your mother and your father together while in the same the same roof?
All right, so my dad left out or had to leave at like 11. He came back for a few months. Then we heard about Aaron, and then
who got the background?
Yeah, I don't know what the background is. I think that's real, bro.
Ain't me.
No, they were arguing for years.
No,
they were arguing for a couple of years, and they.
So yeah, it was a bunch. It was the last 3 years of that. So he left when I was 12. It was sixth grade. It was sixth grade when he left out for good. Like when he got a new house, all that. I was 12. You know
okay.
What I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I thought it was gone, but it was.
Huh? Yeah, I was in sixth grade when he did when that happened.
So sixth grade.
Loud on something.
Yeah.
So as a youth, how did life change for you and Will having dad move out of the house?
All right, so I'm gonna say this because I have these conversations whenever I bring up my father. my girl is in the room now because it's always sometimes it's a lot of it's in a negative light. I want to say this. My dad was a good dad. He did what he could. How did it change when at 12 he just wasn't in the crib? Like he was always a workaholic. So like he was almost never in the crib anyway. But
exactly,
like we never saw him. Like we saw him on weekends.
And when he was home, he was also very much into the church. So when he was home,
so there's a couple
what
things.
What ended up happening is he would be so into his Bible and his studies,
right?
That we wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? We connected way more after he left the house, honestly.
Yeah, like when I connected with my pops, I was 21. I was back. I came back home. And I was working for him. When I was working for him, that's when I really connected with my dad.
Okay.
I didn't connect with my dad during my teenage years, and early on it was either there's some thing about my pops. There was his God mode, like my brother just talked about, and his work mode.
Okay.
Like I do the same thing my father does. So he's been my greatest asset and my advisor like over my life. So hands down that way. But it's hard to connect with him. I can't be a friend. We can't be friends. We're not friends.
Okay.
So that's OG. That's my pop.
Do you feel like you gotta be friends with your dad?
I don't feel like I think he feels like we should be friends, but I don't. I mean, not in that degree. No, like I check on him, see what's up. But like he only got 2 modes, so it's hard to relate to him. He's not it's hard to relate to him on a human level.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's just like you can't really talk to him, but two different things that he's really into.
So
that's been my whole life.
I've known you for 20 years. And one thing I noticed is that you are real close to the vest about a lot of things that may make you emotional. And I can imagine that comes from inherited from your pops, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and I feel like a lot of the tendencies that I see with like DJ and Darrell, where they're like very similar. Like you're not about to see them out of character. Like you don't want to see them out of character. Number one. So I think in a way it's sort of like protecting you from seeing them out of character because you don't want to be the reason why they out of character. And I feel like growing up under my Uncle D, like he was real silent, right? That line with they asked about the Incredible Hulk, and his answer was, "I'm always mad."
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's my Uncle D. Like I feel like if you got around my Uncle D and he ain't blowing up shit or kirking, it's like he was always mad. He was just real good at keeping himself composed around people, around the family. Mm-hmm. And I felt like DJ and Real, you know what I'm saying, it's sort of like this real similar. It's like they got great smiles, so you think, oh, them guys are nice. Yeah, okay, until you give them a reason not to be nice. They are the epitome of don't give them a reason not to be nice. But, you know, so another one reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because I know that DJ and Real have a different experience because they grew up, they were military brats, and they got to move around, and they had a military dad. So DJ, what can you say is the biggest difference between watching your father raise you versus Real versus being a granddad?
It's temperament. My dad is so the same thing you just said at us. He when he's on that level, like he can give me I'm almost 32 now. He can give me a look right now, it'll make you stop for a second, like shit. Like that look he gives you and his temperament, like his attitude, when it's at that level. He's not always at that level, but that's the biggest thing about it.
What about you, Real?
His arrogance. He's not as arrogant as he used to be when he was younger. Even when he was in his 20s, of course, I wasn't born. I seen pictures of him. I'm just like, God damn, dude, like you was an arrogant mother sucker, man. Like, bro, you need to chill. Then, like the DJ said, you know, his temper, man, because like my father, you know, I'm not gonna go down this, his past and everything, but he's very to himself. He don't really deal with a lot of people. He likes being by himself. And once you piss him off, there's no stopping until he wants to stop. And that's not going to be very quick, you know what I'm saying? And to see him now, he's a lot more reserved, you know. He's actually like showing more affection than what he did with me and DJ. It's not to say that he didn't love us or anything like that, but that's just not him showing emotion, regardless of how he felt about a situation or about people in general. So, like, the actually see my pops, you know, like give Nick a hug and stuff. I'm like, man, nigga, where was this, dog? Where was this, bro? Like, dog, man, you know, like, and I think he has a lot more understanding also, you know, and I guess that's just coming with age and maturity, but that's probably the biggest thing, you know, I see in my father as time occurred.
I think that's a lot. That's a really similar thing to my pops. My pops didn't have no patience.
Mm-hmm.
So it was either like get on his level, or you gonna hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of what they dealt with. It's like he expected you to already
know
the teaching aspect. Like he wanted you to
He would
grasp
expect
it
you to
just
know.
off
That's
the
that
strength.
military thing, though.
Right.
Yeah, and he's in the military. Yeah,
that's
like
the military thing. You should know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the difference I seen between
so what happened is,
like, me and my, like, the way, I don't know, like, we only 3 years apart, so the way they treated, I had to tag along my brother, so I got things that my brother probably didn't get when we were the exact same age. But between me and my little bro got protected a lot by his moms, and he got, like, I think my pops felt real guilty about having him, like, in general. So he got a lot more. He got a lot more things. He probably didn't get a lot more time, but he got a lot more things. You know what I mean? So it's
okay.
A little different. But he was always angry. So it's you know.
So this is one of the reasons why I find these conversations important. I mean, among you know what I'm saying, aside from being interesting, it's important because I represent the stereotypical Black home where it's like my mom and my dad split up when I was 6 months. So my dad and I never had the experience of my dad and my mother. You know, I never got to see any like love. I didn't get to study my dad and see how like a household is supposed to be and how like leadership was supposed to be. And I feel like as a man in my deepest committed relationship with Lucy and raising my son, I feel like I have these hurdles that I have to jump over, and sometimes I sort of like, I don't want to say it's not a I don't want to say I oppose her, but it's like my thing is like, yo, you really don't completely understand how much of a lack of these things were in my life compared to what you experienced, for you to expect me to just like gravitate towards these type of things. Like outside of a family dinner on Sundays, we didn't eat as a family because there wasn't a family to eat with. You know, there wasn't, my mother didn't have the money for us to go and experience eating in restaurants and doing a lot of things that families do. Because now, listen, so when my mother separated from my father, my eventual stepfather at the time, Tony, was there, like, as far as being the man of the house. But I think first of all, when my father found out about Tony, he rode up on him and beat his ass. So they didn't have one of those, you know, good relationships. My father is a very composed person. So after he got his licks off, I guess they were able to, you know, be present for the handoff whenever my pops came and picked me up, if that was ever the case. But as far as like, they was never gonna be on some kumbaya. And I feel like, because I was like, I'm such a Brooks and I'm such a Steffens, it's like a lot of me is like a lot of, you know what I'm saying, my dad. I feel like a part of Tony was reluctant to like really try to bond with me. So I don't recall a lot of moments where Tony tried bonding with me. So I didn't have a male figure like constantly trying to bond with me. You know, because I feel like he just didn't want to waste his time, because it would have been like a wasted effort, because like I didn't know any better. So I glorified my dad, regardless of how good or bad of a dad he was actually being, that was like, you couldn't tell me nothing bad about my pops, because, you know, Tyrone loved my dad. Like, everybody loved my dad. So anytime I'm around anybody and they talk about my father, they all speak great about him, right? So the only person that would or could speak bad about him was my mother. But thankfully, my mother wasn't one of those, she didn't bash my father at all. Like, my mother never came out of the mouth and said anything negative about my father. And I think part of it was because she knew how I felt about him, and so she didn't want to waste her time fighting that uphill battle of being the bad guy, saying truthful, but, you know what I'm saying, scathing remarks about my dad.
Yeah, so I think that's the difference between me and Will's versus your experience with our father. It's like my mom's, of course, she didn't say nothing bad about him either until we got grown, and he's crazy. Yeah, he's crazy. Like, we see, like, when he wasn't Superman no more, and we got to see, you know what I mean, like, all the, you know what I mean, everything, all the cracks in the armor, and we could speak on it. My mom would say things, you know what I mean, but she wasn't on it like, oh, your dad's this, your dad's that, in front of us. So
I think
that says a lot about the mothers, though, bro.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we all had in common, where our mothers sort of wanted to wait until we saw things for ourselves before they were like, yeah, that's right. You're not mistaken. That's how your daddy is.
Mm-hmm.
That motherfucker be tripping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bro.
Real
might not remember all of it.
Yeah.
You said, like, bro, you said I might not what?
Said Real might not remember every. So I remember, I'm older than Real. I'm 4 years older than him. So it's things that I remember that he probably saw somewhere down the road, but I think it's a lot of shit that I saw that he didn't get a chance to see. And you know, you can't substitute that your father being there or being a part, because my dad definitely went to all our football games, took us fishing, you know, that type of thing. But the thing that I just realized, I text Real this like probably a couple weeks ago, a month ago. Time is messed up with me right now. I don't know what today is.
Right.
But I texted him, I was like, bro, I don't think I ever heard my pop say I love you or nothing like that. Or I think the one time I heard him say I'm proud of you is when he told Darrell. And I'm the big brother, so it doesn't affect me. It's just I'm glad he says that to my child or my brother. So that's the role that I take on with it.
You know, and it's funny you say that, because I feel like my dad, like, by the time I got to be like 20, my dad would like periodically tell me how he's proud of me. And I feel like, and I've always felt like I don't like when people tell me they're proud of me, because I don't feel like I've really accomplished anything. Like, to be honest with you, I feel like I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. Like I didn't graduate high school with a 4.0. I wasn't a valedictorian.
Perspective change now?
What's
going on in America and not being locked up and stupid shit like that?
So
that's something to be proud of.
I listen, I'm not saying that's like, I feel like we shouldn't have to be proud of that. As Black people, we shouldn't have to be proud of surviving. Because me, that's just surviving as a Black man from the hood. I'm not locked up. I didn't kill nobody. I haven't gotten shot. You know what I'm saying? I don't have no crazy wildness going on in my life. And I have a job that I can be proud of. Like, I make an honest living, and I can, you know what I'm saying, occasionally help people out. You know what I'm saying? But so I feel like part of my dad telling me he's proud of me is because he looks at it from I feel like my dad failed me. Well, I feel like my dad feels like he failed me because he wasn't there. He wasn't able to give me, the way that he's brought me into this world, I was playing with, you know what I'm saying, a bunch of hearts in my spades game.
Yeah, you was held.
I had a bunch of hearts and diamonds, and I was able to get my books off. So I feel like that's why he's proud of me. Like, yo, my son shouldn't be where he is. My son shouldn't be able to do what he's doing and be the person that he is. But in spite of all the shit that was put ahead of him before he even got here, this is what he's doing. So I feel like, so now, to answer your question, yes, DJ, I do, I appreciate it a little differently, but I'm like, at the same time, what I've preferred from him is like, listen, because the one thing you said was about the friendship aspect. I feel like my dad is more comfortable with just being my friend because he could never be a father to me in that sense because he was never there to be a father. You know what I'm saying? When I say, like, I mean as far as, like, being the provider, being the whole package, being being a day-to-day provider, inspiration, disciplinarian, building structure, passing down bloodline genetics, and being able to say, okay, that's because of this, that's because of that. Here are these landmines. My dad wasn't there for me for that, right? So I feel like that's why, like, my dad is at least appreciative, and I'm appreciative too. That because I can call him, but I'm still a little hesitant to ask him because even though I feel like I would be in the right as far as asking certain questions, I don't want to break his heart, you know, because I feel like my dad. Like, one thing about men is if they're real tough growing up, they have a tendency to soften up a whole lot when they get older because they feel like they had to be tough. And it's like now that their guard is down, people just chink at their arm. And I wouldn't want to. I want to let my dad walk off this earth with that much. I don't want him to feel like, you know, I'm deliberately, you know what I'm saying, breaking his heart by saying certain things. Now, the truth is the truth. So if I say, if I ask my dad, how do you grade yourself as a father to me? I feel like he'll be honest as he possibly can, but our scores may not be the same. Because it's like, listen, if you weren't there, if you weren't providing, if you weren't protecting me, you know, if you weren't my, like, your responsibility is protect me. My dad wasn't there to protect me. So I had to protect myself. And I feel like the way that I protected myself set me back because because it's like people who could have given me a hand saw how I was out here operating. It's like, listen, I was small and I didn't have anybody. So if you jumped out there, I was knocking you the fuck out. Or I was trying to. And I would do it by any means necessary. So it's like, yo, leave T alone because that nigga be tripping. Like, one thing my mother used to say, she used to tell me that old school shit. Listen, if he too big, pick up something and bust him side his head. Stay no more. So I didn't have to do too much picking shit up and bust people side of the head because I had hands. But there was a few times where it's like, I don't know if I can beat this dude. I'm not gonna be as malicious as busting. I did throw pepper in somebody's eyes once. Absolutely. And then he got the shit beat out of him.
So
I had asthma. Listen, I had asthma real bad. I got jumped by these two brothers who I thought was my friends. I was beating their ass, and when I was hitting them, I knocked one of them out. He fell on top of me. So, like, I got asthma. I'm claustrophobic. I felt like I was trying to get him off me, but his little brother was trying to hit me while he was asleep on me. So I bit his ass and woke him up. Oh, he bit me! And as soon as I bit him and he hopped up, I got up on his brother's ass with like a 50 piece. And then the bus came and we got on the bus and the motherfucker sat at the front of the bus and shut the fuck up for the rest of the bus ride. Dead ass.
You know, it's crazy though, man, because, like, you know, me and DJ, of course, we was military brats, you know, and we didn't have to live in that survival mode, you know what I'm saying, that at least a lot of my friends or you or, you know, Will may have grown up in, you know what I'm saying, but I don't know, man, it's crazy, man, like hearing those stories though, man, it's crazy.
So I think I got a different perspective on that proud, or you make me proud or whatever thing, because it's his when he says it to me, it's like when a couple weeks ago we had this conversation. I ended up telling him how much I make now. His eyes lit up. He was like, "Oh, he really doing it. He really out here like making me, you know what I mean, doing better than me."
Winning coat money.
Nah, don't do that. So he was like, so that was so I think what he feels is I gave him the right things, you know what I mean? So I'm proud of him for extending, you know, farther along than me. So that's a little, like, that's why I feel that because he doesn't really, you know, he's sentimental sometimes, but he's never grown up. He was always like, he was always like, yo, I want this screwdriver. I'm like, I don't know what a screwdriver is. I'm 5, 6, 7 years old. That's the wrong screwdriver. Start yelling at me.
Same story.
Yeah, like all that. He used to do all that, bro. So it's kind of like now it's kind of like, yeah, I'm proud of you because you became a man. You make all this bread and you tell me.
It's funny you mentioned the screwdriver, and DJ said that. So one thing he said to me was that I guess the two times he went to go help work with his dad as far as fixing stuff, and he asked him to get the screwdriver. It's like you're not teaching your son these things. Like you got so. In order, like you gotta, that's why I said this before. In order to be a leader, you gotta first know how to follow. And the reason why you need to know how to follow before you lead is so that you know how to trickle down that information. And I feel like a lot of these guys didn't have a chance to actually properly follow under somebody else to know how to then give that information to their son. So it's a generational thing. So it's like he had to learn the hard way. And so he expects you to learn the hard way versus like, yo, like, so I was just naturally good at math, right? My dad's good at math, but my dad didn't teach me math. It just came to me, right? So now it's like, I'm not going to let my son just rely on natural ability. I'm challenging him every day. He's 2, but we's talking numbers. We talking letters. We talking colors. We talking so many things. It's like, I'm going to try my best to help this kid grasp learning
right
as soon as possible.
Yeah,
right?
I think the difference between us, like our generation, if you want to be an active father, and their generation of thinking what an active father is like providing, making enough money to actually survive.
Exactly.
Having that household and that structure.
Our version is like my brother's daughter's 13 or whatever, and he's what I want to be as a father.
He's a dope girl dad.
Yeah, definitely.
Shout out to him.
Being active, like, oh, this is what it is. This is, you know what I mean? This, like, inside, like trying to be there. Like, and that's the difference between what happened a lot in their generation.
But it's tough though. But it's still tough because
that's why I was just doing that earlier before the podcast. I was, went over to see my daughter, and then just talking to her, and she wanted to fool around the volleyball. She plays volleyball, and just doing that with her outside for a minute.
So
you know what I'm saying? And then,
so it's tough.
Some stuff around the house, and I'm joking with her while she's doing it. So yeah.
When we were growing up, and a lot of it is the way we see things is molded by cinema. So a lot of times cinema will show the great dad who may not be financially providing the way you want, or it's the dad who's providing financially, but he's not able to be there. So it's like, you're never here, Dad, while he's standing in a nice house eating. He can open the refrigerator and pour a glass of milk at 2:00 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Get a bowl of cereal, and they ungrateful as hell about that aspect. And then you talk about the balance, and it's like, yo, that balance, like, everybody's not gonna be able to achieve that balance, right? So it's like it's dependent upon.
It's hard to get. That's the problem.
It's really dependent upon the union of the man and the woman to even if the man isn't there to make sure his presence is felt. And it's because in my industry, I'm working 60 hours a week. I don't get to see my son like during the daylight times with his mother and be able to interact all the time. And the days that I get off, like I gotta remember that I'm used to not having the family unit. So I don't have my instincts aren't let me go and be with my family like in that setting. It's like when I can't, okay, I will. Whereas Lucy is like she's constantly craving it because she's used to it. Versus, so the energies are different. She's craving it because she's used to it, and it's like where it's like my energy should be more so, okay, let me go and rectify a past ill of this Brooks lineage, right? And it is hard because I'm like, yo, I still have to maintain a frame of mind to where I can go out and do what I gotta do, right? But to reel it back to our fathers, like my my dad is, the funny thing is my dad is one of those guys where it's like, he would want family. He's one of those guys who spearheads a lot of family events. Oh, we gonna play this, we gonna do that. When he got around to it, like he would do a lot of. My dad would do a lot of talking about, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and he just wasn't really great on the execution part of it. Where it's like, he's an idea guy, but he's the guy in the company who needed somebody who can be the technician of the ideas, and that's where the woman comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you gotta have a great partnership, because it's like, just because I have a great idea don't mean I know how to execute it. Don't mean I know what it takes to put it together. I can say all day long, damn, I want to eat some spaghetti tonight. But if I don't know how to make spaghetti, then we ain't eating spaghetti. Right? So you need somebody who knows how to make the goddamn spaghetti. So everybody's like, damn, spaghetti was a good idea tonight. Yeah, thanks, Dad, for thinking about spaghetti. Thanks, Mom, for knowing how to make spaghetti. But also, thanks, Dad, for going out and making that money so you can get that ground beef and those noodles and the water running and the gas working. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it takes the whole team. And so and the thing about it is, like, I feel like my dad comes from because DJ and Darrell's mom, she's really she's big on events, and they both have that energy. The difference is, because she's been like that, she's played that role so long, it's like second nature to her to plan and coordinate all those type of things. So she can do both. And that's what happens with the women in the family a lot of times. It's like they know they are more adept to making this shit happen, because it's like that was their role. You know what I'm saying? And they grew up, they had that experience because the mother is always in the home. So they grew up under the mother who showed them how to make a home, who showed you how to clothe your kids and budget out, you know what I'm saying, school supplies and school clothes and school shoes and stuff like that. Whereas a mother would know, okay, my kids need to go to sleep right now, because if they don't get enough sleep, then they gonna take forever getting up. Fathers, we want you to go to sleep, because if you up when I get home, you gonna annoy the shit out of me. Take your bad ass to sleep. Why the hell these kids still up? Right? Our motivations is different.
So it's a bunch of parallels between DJ and Real and me and my brother, because their pops was in the Army, right?
Yeah,
yeah, Army.
Ours was in the Air Force. But y'all was, my brother was born a couple years before he got out, but I was born right before he got out. So I never saw that life. But the discipline, and there's a couple things. They saw a lot more racism than we did. Like I can see how it molded them. The racism molded them. Like it's a lot different. Like if you running from people that gonna lynch you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a different childhood than we had. You know what I mean? We grew up around black people. He grew up like there was black people, but it wasn't. It's not like how we grew up, and it's not saying it's you know all the way right now, but back when we was growing up. But it like he had to be the best. Like, and they even screwed him out of being the best. Like my pops did HVAC. Like he went to school in the Air Force, and he was supposed to be top of his class, but they made him a point below. You know, stuff like that would always happen to him. So racism molded my pops as well. And it's not the same as racism molded me. Like I understand it, but it's not the same. I wasn't in school getting called a nigger. You know what I mean? I wasn't in school like getting left back and all that. You know what I mean? So it's you see a lot of there's anger, there's impatience about how we grew up versus how they grew up. You know what I mean? It was a tougher environment, and not to say our environment wasn't tough. You know what I mean? Because it was in general. But like
this had different challenges
that you can't even like put into the equation that we got that they didn't get. So like the next generation, we gotta give them something different as well. So that's why I appreciate what you're doing T, what my brother does, what DJ does, and what Ty does. Who's not?
So,
but yeah.
So my thing is, if I feel like all we can do is like constantly examine our past so that we can make a better future for our kids, and that's what I like to do. I like to, and that's why I would be honest with you. I initially wanted to have this conversation with my with my cousins from my mother's side, because they are all fathers, and I wanted to have a father's conversation, but I felt like that wasn't deep enough, because we got to go to the root, and I felt like that was more important. That's why I wanted to have this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, no, it's a good conversation to have. Black fatherhood is stereotyped and just in general like made to be something it's not. I think in the world, like some of us did grow up without fathers. Some of us did have fathers. Like, a lot of us have fathers. Like that's and sometimes like when the Superman cape comes off, you kind of like all we talk about is the flaws and the cracks and the bad things. Like, but I gotta give it up to my pops. I gotta salute him for everything that he did do. You know what I mean? Even though I do talk about some of the crazy shit, I think, you know what I mean? I think he's, you know what I mean, whatever whatever he's doing right now.
Right.
But I gotta give it up to him, salute him as not trying to and hope that my life is an extension of his, and being better than him. And that's what I'm trying to do in my relationship and being an uncle and all that. So, and trying to be a father at some point, you know what I mean? So.
Well, I will say this, just after look, well, I haven't seen Will and his daughter, you know, but I've definitely seen, you know, obviously like T and Teddy and DJ, you know, Lil Nick. And I will say this, that like the way they were brought up is different from the way they were raised. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like the way DJ is with Nick wasn't the same, you know, as my pops, you know, with DJ. DJ's a lot more patient with Nick, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's say Nick isn't listening or something like that. Back in the day, my pops was like, man, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, getting ready to curtain. Like, he's very short-tempered, you know, when he was back in his 30s or 20s. But with DJ, he still keeps a nice, calm voice, talks to Nick. And, of course, you know, we already know when Nick gets out of hand, DJ will put him in place if needed. But he's a lot more patient, you know, and that's what Nick needs, you know. And the CT, you know what I'm saying, being so involved with Teddy's life, you know, it's the total opposite of what, you know, they were brought up with their pops, you know. It's not to put any bad names on our fathers or anything like that, but it's completely different, though.
Right. They did what they could and what they knew.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's hard to that's why I look back at it as a grown man now and like, you know, he's grown up himself. He's trying to, like, I'm 37. I think he left when he was around my age, and it was like, yeah, I can, like, life hard, bro. Life is hard, my nigga. You know what I mean? So
it took me until I got like in my 20s to realize some stuff. Like, I understand my father now, bro. Like, I understand how he grew up. I understand the little Teddy. I understand the struggles of being a black man or a parent and having that burden of like you have to provide, because it's stressful. I look back at a lot of times like, yo, how the fuck were they able to just sit here and do this? And I don't think I've ever heard them complain about any of that shit. They just did it. Like, they might have had their own conversations privately, but I've never heard any of it. Right. So for me, it's about taking that and trying to implement that with my son, but had an understanding like people learn and process things differently. So my son, with his sensory process, and I have to try to understand that and then be a little bit more patient and you know, get an understanding of how he learns, so we can, all right, now this is how we're gonna do it. Calm down for a second, let's talk, let's figure it out, and then move forward so you get understanding. The ass whoopings, I do, now don't get me wrong, kids might need ass whoopings a few times, but my son isn't to that point where it's a lot of that's needed. The times that it has happened, I've done it though.
So
I mean, that's the thing about it. It's always about improving. what your because your parents, like Brian said, your parents, and this goes for both parents, but you know, they give you what they can with what they know how to do. They can't give you what they don't know, what they haven't been. Nobody taught them to do. They're going to give you the best they got. And so the goal is to take what you're being given, and it's like, okay, I can improve on that somehow, because that's really what they want. That's, to me, why fathers like will look at what you're doing and say they're proud of you. It's like in your older years, it's like, you know what, I'm saying, I know what I gave you wasn't 100%, but I see what you did with it, and you did something good with it, and I see what you're doing now. Like Brian, Brian's doing what he's doing at his job. My dad was, proud of me. I got married, had a kid, and stuff like that. And then,
burrito.
Just managing, things I got going on. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing with all of y'all. It's like when your dad see you, you're like, I know I could have did better, but he's doing really good with what he's been given. That's why they're proud. I get it now because I'm a dad, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not 100%, but you know what I'm saying? I'm very proud of her. What my daughter's able to do. And so.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is I tell my son all the time, like, yo, I'm proud of you. He might understand why I'm telling that or understand what I mean when I'm saying it, but I just know what he's been through.
Yeah.
And it's nothing crazy, but just that type of thing, and tell him I love him. Like, I see that interaction with T, who his father wasn't always around. You just see the love that he portrays. So it's just, like you said, it's building on what we had or what we didn't have, and then, implement that with our children now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so like man, I don't want to get into NFL draft stuff. Like, I think this is a good way to end the episode, man. I appreciate DJ coming on, of course, Rel, Big Bro, and shout out to y'all being fathers, and shout out to our pops. The pros and the cons.
Shout out to you after having a quarantine baby, because I know it was gonna happen.
She said no or not.
You have a little caramel kid with some light green eyes.
What green eyes coming from?
Corona.
Or whatever brown eyes. What's your eyes? You got brown eyes?
Brown, they hazel or whatever the fuck.
Hazel. Goddamn, I don't gaze into his eyes.
Why not?
What?
What? All right, it's time
on
to
that
go.
note, guys, it's been another great episode. Take us to the bridge.
Hey, so we about to wrap up on the ride up, but
we'll talk about draft. We're gonna do an episode before Thursday, and we'll talk about the draft.
I'm ready, dog. I'm excited.
Yeah. So we're gonna have some pre-draft talk after the buzzer here with the boys. But Brian's about to log off. It's been another good pod. I think it was a great conversation.
Absolutely.
Want to again thank our guests, Relly Rail, Big Bro Will, DJ, and Felicia on the back end.
Absolutely. At all times.
At some point, Felicia, you might have to get your own zone, Felicia. At some point.
She should have a
I downloaded it last time.
Oh, Zoom. All right, bet you got to come online one time. But hey, what's up, Ted? All right, let's end it with what we want you to do. Twitter's OTRU_. IG on the ride up. Facebook on the ride up. We on Snap on the ride up, and we on YouTube on the ride up, the podcast. Follow, like, subscribe, review, 5 stars, everything. We're over 2.3 thousand listens, and we're looking for more. We're looking to expand. Shout out to Puerto Rico. Shout out to Germany. Shout out to France. Shout out to whatever the heck, Czech Republic. Shout out to the UK. Shout out to Canada. You know what I mean? And the 12 or 4 states that we're listening to. But we need all 50 in America, bro. Like, what's up? Quarantine time. Y'all don't have nothing else to do. Listen to us. We're on the cook up. Shout out to my brother Burn. Shout out to South Jersey. Shout out to Ant. you know what I mean? He's down there at Alexandria on the front lines. Shout out to my man Dre out here in Laurel. Shout out to that's all from South Jersey. So shout out to my man Chris down in Florida who put us all together. We're gonna put those interviews together. We're gonna bundle them up. We need an interview with Will, and if DJ's gonna be a regular part, we definitely need a joint with Will, and we need an interview with Ted. What up? What up, Diddy? But yeah, man, it's been another episode at season 2, episode 3, or AKA episode 25. Peace. All right, y'all.